Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel and to another reading journal video. I know it's been a while, but if you haven't seen my setting up video for my reading journal, definitely check that out. I will link it for you above. And for today's video, we are talking about the Shadow and Bone Trilogy by Leigh Bardugo, which is Shadow and Bone, Siege and Storm, and Ruin and Rising. It's a young adult fantasy book series, but I am guessing if you clicked on this video and you are watching it, that you have read the books or at least watched the series. If you haven't, I have to give a spoiler warning now because I will be talking about anything and everything in these books, so you have been warned. I actually read these books a while ago, last autumn in fact, and I finally got around to making this video, making the spread in my reading journal this March, and now it's April and I'm doing the voiceover, so I'm gonna have to dig a little in my brain so I can remember all the important stuff I want to share with you about my thoughts about the book. First off, I have to mention that these aren't the first Grishaverse books I've read. I actually read Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom first, which I know is not the correct order. They actually come after this trilogy, but I did it like that anyway, and I would honestly not recommend doing that to anyone else, because it's not like you don't understand the Six of Crows books without having read Shadow and Bone, you know, world building wise. But if you are planning on reading all the Grishaverse books by Leigh Bardugo, then just do it in the correct order, because I have to say the Six of Crows duology is a lot better than the Shadow and Bone trilogy, in my opinion, which is why I was actually a little disappointed when I started Shadow and Bone after finishing Six of Crows, because Six of Crows is just that much better for me. And I think I would have enjoyed the Shadow and Bone trilogy a lot more if I hadn't had those super high expectations. So don't be like me and read it in the correct order. All of that being said, I don't want it to come across like I didn't enjoy the Shadow and Bone trilogy. I did a lot, which is why I made this spread. And now I'm going to try to simultaneously explain to you what I'm doing for this spread design-wise and what I thought about the books, what worked and what didn't. So let's go. I started out by printing out, cutting and gluing in the 3 covers of the books, somewhat in the center of the spread. Then I glued on 3 line art drawings of the book's main characters, Alina, Mel and the Darkling. I did those line art drawings myself on Procreate using photos from the Netflix adaptation, and you'll see that later I colored them in on paper. Then I printed out a bunch of stock photos of a palace, a stag, a pirate ship, a forest and some smoke, which is meant to represent the fold. And then I also added 5 of my favorite quotes from all 3 books and kind of spread them around the page. And finally, in the empty spaces, I added little pieces of this chalkboard paper which I had left over from a bullet journal theme last year, and that's where I later wrote down my reviews, which I like to do in bullet points. I know lots of people like to write actual long texts reviewing the books in their reading journals, but that's not my style, so I do it in little categories and write down some bullet points. Here I have the category fave couple, favorites, characters, my ranking of the 3 books, and what I liked and what I didn't like about the books. And now for my actual review. As for stars, I gave the first book 3.5 stars, the second 3 stars, and the third book 4 stars, which also I think makes my ranking of the books very clear. The third book was definitely my favorite because that's where all the action happens. And there's also some big twists at the end, which is also something that I love, the twist with Mel especially, and also the way Alina's story ends. For the second book, I only gave it 3 stars because I felt like nothing important happened throughout the whole book. I felt like most of the book was them traveling with Nikolai and having discussions with him, which I guess is interesting if you like Nikolai, but it doesn't do much for the plot in my opinion, and I was a little bit bored by the whole second book, which makes the first book, Shadow and Bone, my second favorite of this series. I also felt a little bit bored reading that one, but I think that is mostly, if not totally due to the fact that it has the exact same plot as the first season of the Netflix adaptation, so I already knew exactly what was happening at all times. Aside from that, it was a really good read. Some of the things I liked the most about the whole book series were that it has some great side characters like Nikolai and Tolya and Tamar. They are my favorite characters of the series, by the way. I also really enjoyed the romance between Alina and Mal, which I know is not a popular opinion in the Grishaverse fandom. I know lots of people like Alina with the Darkling, but I have to admit I do not understand that at all, because aside from the fact that he is centuries older than her, I felt like throughout the entire series he's never really even nice to her. He's just obsessive and manipulative and constantly trying to use her for her power, so I really didn't like that pairing at all. I do, however, very much understand crushing on Ben Barnes as the Darkling in the Netflix adaptation, but just from reading the books, I really do not get that pairing. The pairing between Alina and Mal, however, I really enjoyed. I really liked the childhood best friends to lovers arc, and even though those two also have some not super great moments in the books, I still really like how they ended the story together and got their happy ending. And with that, we are also approaching the end of this video. Here's a final look at all of the parts of the spread. If you enjoyed it, please leave a thumbs up and also hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet. If you have read the Shadow and Bone Trilogy, put down in the comments what you thought about it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video as well. Bye!